Hello and welcome to another episode of Risky Business. Last night we fixed up our merge, but now we're trying to get it to compile with the new settings. We're not using a Unity build anymore. So the primary issue has just been getting includes in the right place. So we're going to continue with this and try to get Milton building and running with our customizations again. And then after that, we'll continue to bug hunting. So we have hardware render.h. So it's complaining in milton.cc that it doesn't have render data, so we need to include hardware render.h in milton.cc. So let's go to, okay, we're already in milton.cc. We're already including hardware renderer.h. So let's see. Member access into incomplete type. So where is render data defined? It's forward declared in hardware renderer.h apparently. So let's search for render data. And see where it's actually defined. Looks like it's defined in hardware renderer.cc. So that's kind of interesting. So if I search for render data, see if we can find it here. So it's pretty interesting that this is in hardware render.cc. That suggests that he doesn't want this publicly visible. And I guess that makes sense because he got rid of using flags in a bunch of places. So right now I still feel like I want this to be publicly visible, so I might move this back to hardware render.h. The alternative to moving it would be coming up with a different way to do our render flags for the paper. So, but there's stuff like render data flags exporting that looks like it's still being used in Milton.cc. So that's pretty interesting. Let's take a look at our diff. I'm wondering if this is something we did. It doesn't look like it, so I'm not sure how he's even getting it to compile. So let me see here. So if we go to milton.cc, like you can see right here, he's using render data flags that are defined in another C file. Oh, okay. So render data flags are defined in the header. It's just the structure that's not. So we duplicated it here. But yeah, I think what we're going to do is move this back into hardware renderer.h. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'm going to get rid of all this. Then I'm going to go to the H file and put it in right there. And then we are going to include hardware renderer.h in here. Now there might be some more duplication for us to get rid of. Oh, maybe not. So let's try building again. So it's complaining about unknown type name D-array. Which is right there. So let's see where D-array is defined. In darray.h. So we are going to include darray.h. No matching function for call to GPU render. So that's because we need to pass the canvas view, and that's 1574. Whoops, wrong file. So let's make sure that we've got a canvas view here. Looks like we do. Hello, Ginger Bill. Thank you for tuning in. So now we just have stlmilton.cc errors. So line 390. We have cases not in a switch. So we do have a switch here. It's just a incorrectly placed brace. And we have a build success. So let's see, does it run is the question. That much appears to be working. Now if I toggle line paper, same behavior as before. Toggle grid paper, same behavior as before. So that looks like it's good. Now we just need to figure out these bugs. So an interesting thing is when I run Milton and I hit the toggle, nothing happens, but I believe render paper is still getting called. So it seems like the flags aren't being updated when I hit the toggle, but they are when I try to move the canvas. So just to confirm that, let's go back into hardwarerender.cc. We're going to search for our GPU render paper, and we're just going to say now I also wonder if should I be doing an early out here? So I'm calling the GPU render paper out here, and I'm not testing the flags. And then in here I'm saying if it's paper line mode, otherwise do this. But that doesn't account for if it's neither. So I'm not sure why it was even working. Like, it shouldn't be able to turn off the modes, right? So why does that work? So we're going to throw a printf in here. And we're just going to say like in here. So we should see it should start flooding the terminal with in here. But it doesn't appear to be doing that. If I move it around, so what is going on? Why am I not getting any printing? We are not working on risc-v related stuff right now, Ginger Bell. We are doing Milton related stuff. Miblo has a thing with Insobot to tell you. I think it's just like this. So I don't think Tundra is actually picking up my changes. It doesn't have a make clean. Gotta say, I'm not a fan of Tundra right now. Right, so the make file is just calling Tundra. But you can see, so now it's saying 0 seconds. Last time it said 1.06 seconds. But I don't see a line of actual compilation. And when I run the program, I'm not seeing the printf statement that I inserted into the code. So I'm pretty suspicious that it's Tundra that's not doing a clean rebuild. Or I wonder if it's putting them maybe the build is being made in here. Well, that only has shader gen. Let's look at the debug one. Okay, there's a Milton executable in the debug one. Let's run that. Okay, so this here is our latest. And there you can see it's printing. We're also getting some GL errors. And we've lost our lines. So let's take a look at these invalid operations first of all. So line 1149, let's take a look at that. So it's saying this is an invalid operation. So what is the problem there? So if I take a look at Milton source, so I'm looking for GPU render canvas. So you can see it's doing the same thing that we're doing. Oh, you know what? I didn't finish up the implementation here. That's why. So let's take a look at the YouTube archive. So for those of you that are tuning in today and haven't been following along, we did a merge without doing a commit first. We stashed our changes and then popped it on top. And then totally botched up the merge, so we lost a little bit of code. And I re-implemented it last night, but I think I forgot a little bit. So we are going to look at our past videos to see what the code looked like before we did this horrible thing. If YouTube will cooperate with us, that is. Okay, so we know we need a GLEnd, and I don't know if the GLFlush is really necessary. So there's going to be a GLBegin up here, I know that. And there's a GLEnd down here. And then I also set the color, I think. So I wonder if we can see higher up in the code. Yeah, so here you can see we do an early out. We use program 0, disable depth test, begin GL lines. Okay, I need that. And then color we set as well. So let's do the early out. So we're saying if not, or I think we can just do if render data flags exclusive are render data flags paper visible. Right, because Or maybe not. So I want to test that, well, let's see. If we say exclusive or paper visible, then everything other than the paper visible bit will get set to 0. Or no. That would be if it was an AND. So I don't think we can rely on that. I think we're just going to do it the way we did it before. We're going to do an and then we're going to wrap it in parentheses. And then we're just going to say not. So that'll say if the paper visible bit is not set early out. Otherwise, we're gonna GL begin, GL lines. So we also use program 0 and disable the depth test. So GL disable, and it's GL depth test, right? Yeah. And then we also need to set the color. So that's 4UB. And then what color were we using? It was Miblo's go-to color, which apparently is 0x3399 FF. And with that, I think we should be good. We might need the GL flush at the end, and we might not. I don't know. So we're going to try to build again. And this should be like this. Now let's run that build again. So now we're not getting invalid operations, at least. But we're also not getting our grid paper. The GUI is also missing the color picker. So we have a few things we still need to investigate. So first of all, let's see here. I believe we still are not committing our changes, so we can see the vanilla version if we do git stash make and then run the debug one again. So yeah, we changed something that got rid of this. color picker. So let's pop our changes back, and then let's take a look at the diff and see if we can see something that would mess up the GUI. So I set GUI visible to false in Milton reset canvas and set default, apparently. That might be the issue. So what else do we have here? I think that's the most suspicious candidate. So we're going to try changing that. Let's see, where is that? It's Milton reset canvas and set defaults. So let's go to milton.cc. So it was around line 658. Here we are. Okay, here's reset canvas and set default. Now, where is that line? Right here. So I'm going to set that to true. And we still do not have our color picker. How curious. So, why is the picker mysteriously gone? Let's take a look at our diff again and study this carefully. So we have 2 entries that we added to the IM GUI stuff. That should not affect it. We added 2 functions, line toggle visibility and grid toggle visibility. Which again should not affect it. It doesn't do anything with the color picker. We forward declare them there. We include hardware render.h and hardware render.cc. We took the render data out of hardware render.cc. We implemented a GPU render paper function. We called it twice in GPU render canvas. We updated the signature accordingly for GPU render, and the call sites for GPU render and GPU render canvas. We included darray in hardware render.h and put the render data there. We added 2 flags to render data flags. We updated the signature for GPU render. So it seems like we did that twice, but I don't think that should matter. So didn't we forward declare GPU render already? Maybe not. But anyway, that's where it's forward declared. And then for the localizations, we added 2 localizations for English for the toggles. And we set up the abbreviations. We added the toggles to the enum there. And then in Milton.cc we include paper. So we allocate the paper. We set line paper to be visible and grid paper not to be visible. And then we have a thing there that does, if line paper is set to visible, then it updates the render data flags and updates them differently for if it's grid paper. We have a paper init here, which basically does the same thing. So now if Milton state GUI visible, I wonder if this is what is causing the problem. So before, if Milton state GUI visible, we set render flags to be render data flags GUI visible. And here we're setting Milton state render data flags. So that is different than what we were doing before. That could possibly be an issue. So we'll take a look at that next. But let's keep reading through. So we forward declared Milton paper. We have 2 pointers to Milton paper in the Milton state. We changed up the shortcut keys for adding a line toggle and grid toggle visibility. We got rid of the shortcuts 3 through 9. And we got rid of a curly brace. So the curly brace is suspicious to me. But why did he have a curly brace there? That's very curious. So I think when I deleted these things, I must have deleted a brace. Or rather, I left a brace. Okay, so that's a mistake. So it looks like we've got double braces where we should only have one brace here. And then to compensate for it, we got rid of this brace. So that's messing up our control flow there. I don't think that's the problem we're seeing, but that's a different problem that we should fix. So let's go to stlmilton.cc and take a look at that. So here you can see the brace that's duplicated. So we're going to get rid of that. And then we're going to reinsert a brace here. So this formatting is kind of a nightmare, but let's make sure that's looking good, and it is. So it builds, and it runs, and it doesn't fix our problem, but it should fix a different problem that we didn't encounter. So now let's also take a look at that other thing that we saw. So let's take a look at the diff again. So this stuff was all okay. But I remember there was something that we saw that was a little suspicious. So where was that? Oh yes, it was in Milton Update and Render. They were doing render flags, and we're doing Milton State render data flags. So we're going to change that. Now, where is that? That's in milton.cc. So let's go to milton.cc. And we're looking for render data flags GUI visible. So right here, this should be render flags. And we're going to do the same right here. And that was the problem. So we have our color picker back. Now let's do the same thing for our line paper. And it looks like we actually have some code duplication here. So this is if line paper is visible, else if grid paper is visible, else. And then we have if line paper is visible, else if grid paper is visible, else. So yeah, we duplicated some code. So we're going to get rid of this. And we still don't have our line paper. Okay, interesting. Here we got some GL invalid operations again. So let's pay closer attention to when that happens, I guess. So if I run Milton, okay, so just when you run it, it happens. So we are going to need to investigate that. So it's happening in hardware render.cc. And I have a suspicion that it's related to our paper. So it's these lines that are complaining again. So if I comment out GPU render paper, yeah, so it's an issue with the paper because when we comment it out, it doesn't do that anymore. So let's review GPU render paper. So we use program 0, disable depth test, begin GL lines. We set the color. So then we're doing our vertex 2f calls. Let's see if GL flush is the culprit. So we're still getting invalid operations. So what is the problem there? So I'm wondering if it doesn't look like I'm calling it in the wrong place. So do we have like an accidental return before we GL end or something? Or I wonder if it's complaining because we're doing use program 0 and disable depth test. Because we're not setting it back to whatever it was before. No, that wasn't the problem either. So I believe we will have to continue hunting this little mystery here tomorrow because we are out of time for today. So thank you everyone who watched, and thank you everyone who watches on the YouTube archive at risc-v. You can follow me on Twitter at HMN_risky for updates about the series, and I will see you next time. Stay risky, everyone.